So obviously with TU15, everybody is looking for builds that hit hard, destroy enemies, and just outperform other builds. And the Kingbreaker is one of those weapons that you need to add to those builds because this thing absolutely shreds. And I'll show you a full build breakdown, but first take a look at this.
Agent down. An agent needs assistance. Agent down.
A specialization supply drop has been arranged for you.
He's down, he's down. The other one's down too.
Agent down.
Yeah, well, he's sniping,
Rogue
so
seeker mine detected.
got him. He's a sniper over there. Oh, he's down. GG's. Get out of here.
Rogue defender drone detected. Vital sign.
So for the build, you might have noticed we are running the technician class, and that is because we need the link laser pointer. The link laser pointer allows you to pulse enemies without using any type of pulse, and that works with a lot of weapons, especially if you're running a talent on the chest like me. I'm running spotter, so I definitely need something to be able to pulse the enemies, and this is going to be the best way to do that, running the link laser pointer instead of having to worry about that pulse coming back. And since I do use this build a lot in conflict, if you guys don't know, when you do pulse, the pulse timer is very long, so this actually helps out a lot. So yes, we are running one of my favorite ARs at the moment. It is the Kingbreaker. Now this thing is an absolute monster. At 1.1 million armor, you can see I have 123,000 damage. Yes, 650 RPM with a 50 round mag. This one's almost god rolled. I'm almost done optimizing it. It has 15% assault rifle damage, 19.5% health damage, and then we have 10% damage to target out of cover. And if you look at the talent, perfect flatline, which amplifies weapon damage by 20% to pulse enemies. Now, after you get 2 kills, applies pulse to the next enemy you hit. So once you catch enemies off guard, holy, they just shred. Now, for the scope, we are running a 3-time scope, which is going to give us 5% critical hit chance. We do get 20 plus rounds. I highly recommend that so we can get that 50 rounds total. We have the link laser pointer that comes from the technician class, and then we also have the muzzle brake that gives us 5% critical hit chance. For the secondary, you can run whatever. I highly recommend probably pairing this up with maybe an LMG or whatever other weapon you have. I currently have the Eagle Bear just for show. I don't use it. So you might have noticed this build in the past. This is my typical, the way I like to run spotter. I don't run the Coyote mask because a lot of people on my team tend to run it, and I'll show you why in a second. So we do have a Cheska mask with 10% critical hit chance. We have weapon damage, we have critical damage, we have critical hit chance, and we have a critical hit damage mod. All god rolled. Probably one of the pieces that you'll be looking for if you guys aren't running the Coyote mask. Usually someone in the team runs it, so I am lucky enough to run the Cheska. For the chest piece, we have a Fenris chest piece, another god roll piece, 10% assault rifle damage, weapon damage, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then we have spotter. And then look at this spotter. What it does, amplifies total weapon damage and skill damage by 15% to pulse enemies. So this helps out a ton too. So if you guys are running any time of skill damage skill, well, this also helps out. But this, along with flatline, is amazing because look at that. That's 15% there, 20% from the thing. So that's already 35% amplified total weapon damage on this build to pulse the enemies. So a lot of damage that we're getting already from all the weapon damage we have stacked. Now this is one piece I tend to run instead of running the Coyote Mask, the improvised holster. Now I have armor on here, I have critical damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage mod. So a mod does not roll on any other holster except the improvised holster. So that's why this is actually really good because I'm gaining 12% always critical hit damage. Now, if I were to switch this out with the Cheska mask, so I would go this Cheska and then I would go on the top and run a Coyote Mask, well, I would gain a total of 13% critical hit damage. But if a teammate's already running that, well, I'm not really gaining anything from anything else. So I personally think always having that 13%, always having that 12% critical hit damage at all times, not worrying about if they're within 15 meters or more, well, that is why. So for me, I just think I personally like running it like this. You can run it however you guys want. Now I am running the Fox Pair knee pads. Obviously, multiplicative damage is very strong in this game. 8% damage to targets out of cover. You probably see this on most meta builds, obviously, and you've seen this on most of my pulse builds. Fox Pair knee pads, we have weapon damage, damage to targets out of cover, and then critical hit damage. Now the same thing with the contractor gloves, obviously multiplicative, 8% damage to armor. So we have armor, damage to armor, and then critical hit damage. So I do have 2 pieces of armor. I feel like 1.1 million armor for me is the sweet spot. I've seen people run no armor on this build, but I feel like 1.1 million for me is kind of like the sweet spot for this build and being able to survive those fights in conflict. And then finally, I do pair it up with a Grupal Sombra because why not? Look at that, 15% critical damage for the one piece. We have weapon damage, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and a critical hit damage mod. And then I have vigilance, increase total weapon damage by 25%. So anytime I run into enemies and I have vigilance procced, I have the spotters going, it's instant. Like, I don't care how much armor you have, you are going to go down in conflict. And that's why you guys were seeing just straight melting players. I was making people quit, especially with the Kingbreaker. That's just something for you guys to keep in mind when you're running this build. Now, if we take a look at the stats, right, you'll see 54% critical chance. That's why I was telling you, I don't need extra critical chance from the mask at all. So 54% critical chance, 180% critical hit damage, 75% headshot damage, 8% armor damage, 20% health damage, and then we have that 18% damage to targets out of cover. So a lot of damage starts adding up, and that's why you see players just dropping left and right with this build. And it's just one of those builds that's very, very impressive. Yeah, that's the build right there, guys. Absolutely melts. You guys can see the damage. You guys see what I'm doing. Definitely loving this, and I think a lot of you guys will. It's a typical spotter build, but now with the Kingbreaker being so powerful, straight monster, loving it. And well, that's it, guys. We're gonna wrap up the video here, guys. I appreciate the support, appreciate the love. I will see you guys in the next one, but until then, hey, nothing much goes out.